welcome back. I hope everybody's having a beautiful day. Here in New York it is raining, so I'm just repotting a couple of plants that need it. Generally I wait until the spring to repot, but in this case I have this orchid, which is my Miltassia Dark Star, the Orchid Works, and it is growing a bunch of new growths. So I think if I don't repot this right now, I'm gonna have a problem. It's got a couple of roots that I've already killed by taking it out of the decorative container. So I need to do something. Well, I want to do something before this growth gets all wrinkly and funky like this one. This is a mild example of what can happen when your bulb grows outside of the pot. But this is an Oncidicum type orchid that likes lots of moisture, so I'm gonna be repotting it. And then on the opposite side, so this is sort of frustrating for me. This is not a huge orchid, it's in a 5-inch pot, but the new growths are coming in on the opposite side. So, I mean, if it grew in sort of like in the middle, if it sprouted from here, or it sprouted on the other side, I wouldn't have to do anything. But in this case, we also have some new growths coming in. So this one is new. This is a brand new growth coming in for this orchid, but check out that new growth over here. So I think we're gonna have a problem if I don't repot it. It's not gonna do its best. And also the leaves are a little bit, I think we gotta clean some things up. So let's get to unpotting this and start trimming it up and putting it in a bigger pot. So first things first, we're gonna get rid of this spike. This has been in bloom for a month now. It's starting to fade, as you can see on the bottom. It's getting papery. What I love about this orchid is that it did not smell like anything in the beginning, and it was sort of like maybe, what's the word? It smelled like nothing, and then it turned into like a rosy scent. So that was a nice surprise. It took about a week for it to develop the rosy scent, so it was super surprising because that first week I smelled nothing. So we're gonna trim this up. So this was very, very pretty, but these are gonna fade very, very quickly, and as you can see, it's already papery. So we'll put that to the side. I did pot this up in July, so this media is quite new still, so I'm gonna see if I could reuse it, but let's see what we're dealing with here. Okay. Man, these roots really took over. When I first got this orchid, it did not have that many roots, I'll say. But look how vigorous it's been. Like in the past 2 months, it's just grown like crazy, developed that spike. Yeah, I think I am gonna reuse this. Let's see if I can. Jeez, it's got so many new, it's got so many new growths. Okay, let's see what we're dealing with here. I am going to just use this up, and I'm going to be repotting this in the spring anyway because I plan on transitioning this over to semi-hydro. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this bark and I'm going to throw it into a larger pot. The reason for this being is that this is very high quality bark. It's not going to break down on me, and it hasn't been in here very long. So I'm just going to give this a quick rinse, and I will be right back and start putting it into a larger pot. Alrighty guys, so what I've done is I rinsed out the roots as much as possible. I'm gonna keep this bark, and again, normally I wouldn't do this, but I only repotted this 4 months ago. I got rid of the other bark just because there was a tiny bit of mold on some of the pieces, and I believe this was because when I first got this orchid, it didn't have too many roots, and when I would water the pot, it stayed a little too moist, and that's one of the reasons why you get a lot of mold sometimes. I noticed it in the very beginning, so I'm thinking that it just stayed in the pot just because of that. Now, I don't plan on keeping this orchid in the pot that I'm gonna put it in very long term, so I want to long term transition this over into semi-hydroponics, but I have to do a little bit more research. I need more retentive moisture medium. I may experiment with lava rock or a couple of other materials, but I may need smaller grade Leca before I do that. Anyhow, what I'm gonna do is I've got a couple of pots that are a little bit larger, and there's a couple of things that we can do. So we have a growth over here, and then we have a growth on this side. So I think what the issue is that this orchid's gonna keep getting longer. So something that we can do is we can cut the rhizome in the middle and then sort of finagle the orchid so that the new growths are more towards the middle. Now, I'll say that this is a first-time bloomer, so this is still a young orchid. So I'm just going to get a bigger pot and then just deal with it growing further out and getting longer. And then maybe in a year, then I'll cut it in half and divide the plant. I just hate that it creeps on both sides. I'd rather have it grow one way, but you know what? More growth equals more beautiful blooms. So I will take it. I shouldn't be complaining. So let me grab a couple of pots, find the right size for this one. I'm gonna fill it around with moss and a little bit of bark, and then we'll put it in a little bit deeper so that these roots over here can hit the medium. So I'm gonna just put it in a tiny bit deeper. So I will be right back. Alrighty, so I've got a 6-inch pot here, so I went up an inch. This one is a little bit more shallow, but has a nice wide mouth. I actually think this might be a 6.5-inch pot, actually. So this should give enough growth, enough room for growth. I've got some moss here, so I'm gonna fill the bottom up with moss. Oncidiums do love their moisture, so we wanna make sure that this is getting nice moisture, but we don't want to suffocate the roots. We want to make sure that there's air, as well as there's air movement, as well as moisture. So now my dilemma, my biggest problem is this new growth over here. So I want to make sure that this is a little bit deeper. So I'm actually going to take off some of that moss on the other side. I'm going to put it on this side and then just put this a little bit deeper because I want to make sure that this is in contact with moss. And this will keep growing from this side. So I will probably divide it if it gives me more bulbs, but I need to make sure that this is in contact with moss or else those roots are not going to establish very well. So we are going to continue to fill around with the moss. And I'll speed up here so that you guys can not be bored with me filling up this pot. So I was gonna put bark, but I figured let me just put moss around this. And the reason I'm doing this, once again, I'll reiterate, I normally replace all of my media, always. But this orchid is such a vigorous grower that this is not going to do well if I leave it in the container, just given the new growth popping out. I know it's not going to grow well. So I wanted to make sure that I can move it into something a little bit bigger immediately instead of just waiting until the spring. So by doing this, by keeping the bark against the roots, I'm not disturbing this orchid very much. Because again, it's just established in this bark. It's high quality bark, and I don't want to set this orchid back, and I do have plans to repot in the spring. So this is a quick and dirty method to making sure that your plant stays healthy and you're still giving it what it needs, and you're not going to disturb it. So I don't think this plant is going to feel that it's been repotted. I haven't cut any roots. All of the roots look really good from when I first potted it in here. It's only been here 4 months, which is nuts to me because, when I first got it, the root system wasn't that great. And it just really took off the minute I put it in this pot. It bloomed within 4 months, and it's growing 3-4 new bulbs, and it's coming at 2 directions. So it's going to keep growing from that side, and it's going to keep growing from this side. And all that means is as it gets bigger, I'm going to have to divide this plant because I don't want to keep it in a huge pot. So my mom is going to get a division, my friends are going to get a division, and this orchid is just absolutely beautiful. I think everybody's going to love this orchid. This is so easy to grow. This is the Miltassia Dark Star Orchid Works. So this takes a lot of moisture, so you want it to keep as much moisture as possible with enough drainage. So we've got our drainage holes here. and you want to give it adequate light. I think I gave it too much light. As you can see, the color of this leaf is a little bit too dark, and I've obviously burned it just a tiny bit because I left it too close to the lights. So I'm going to put it under some of my lower output lights, just for now, just because I know it's getting way too much light. I did in the beginning notice a small fungal infection, as you can see over here, which I've sprayed down with hydrogen peroxide and it stopped spreading, so I'm not worried about it. It doesn't have it on the other leaves. But yeah, this is it. I've been able to repot this orchid. Very minimal interruption to the roots, and I think it's gonna do just fine. So come spring, I'm very hopeful I will have blooms on this beautiful new bulb. Come spring, I'm also going to have this bulb also be mature. It'll probably bloom as well. The roots have not been disturbed, and I will be able to transition this orchid into whatever grow method I want, and I did not set it back. Well, anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more orchid care videos. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Bye.